This is Dr. Robert Bates at Leominster Chiropractic Spine and Injury Center. Today we're going to discuss the disc in the low back and what are disc lesions and the various types of them. I'm going to use a model to explain so that you can get a much better idea of what is really going on. This is a model of the low back in the human. These individual bones are vertebral bones, and there are 5 of them in the low back. Separated between the bones are intervertebral discs, this structure. And the disc, this represents a normal disc. The disc is actually made up of 2 parts. The outer layers, approximately 15 layers, called the annulus fibrosus, and the center part is the nucleus pulposus, which is about 80% water in a healthy disc. So what you have are thousands of fibers that come from this annulus fibrosus and attach into the bottom portion of the vertebral end plate or the bone. So it's actually a very strong structure that is attached integrally into the vertebral end plate or bone. As a matter of fact, if a disc is healthy, then the bone will fracture with violent motion before the disc will tear. So that is why we know that disc lesions are always chronic. This represents a disc bulge where you can see the annular fibers have become weakened and the jelly is starting to push through and make a bulge. Now, this represents a full-blown herniation where the discal material has ripped through the annular fibers and is actually starting to touch this nerve root. That's when you get the sciatica or the radiculopathy and the leg symptoms, the weakness, the numbness, muscle atrophy, and all of the problems that can become a severe problem and permanent. When they do disc surgery, they go in and they actually try to avoid these nerve roots, and they rip out part of this bulging part, and that is really the fix. There's nothing else that's done. It just stops irritating this nerve root. So actually, when you have a disc problem, this is a normal disc. This is a bulge. Then you have a herniation. There are other words called extrusion. There is free fragment, when a piece of the nucleus actually breaks off and can move up or down and affect other nerve roots. Several things come into play depending on the actual dimensions of the person. The space in here is the central canal space, and in some people it is smaller, and they can develop what is called a stenosis, where there's not enough room for the nerve roots hanging down in the low back. You can also develop arthritic problems in the posterior joint, which is here, or off of the end of the vertebral body, which is here, and either one of them can start to take up space here and cause a lateral stenosis, and again affect the nerve root. So to understand how these disc lesions occur, it is nothing wrong with the disc itself. It is an abnormal motion pattern that is because of weak muscles, shortened muscles, torn ligaments, shortened ligaments, stretched ligaments, and many other abnormal things that can occur because of posture and trauma and daily activity that causes an abnormal motion pattern and starts to tear the disc and cause bulging. So there's an abnormal function in the low back years or at least months before any disc lesion occurs. And that is why going to a chiropractor and making sure you have normal motion at each level becomes so important to prevent these serious problems that after the fact take much longer to heal. As a matter of fact, there is no direct blood supply to the disc. It absorbs nutrients through the end plate of the bone, and therefore the metabolism of the tissue is very, very slow, and when you herniate or bulge, it takes a long time to heal. So that is the description of the disc. One more quick thing is when you sit, you should be keeping the lordosis in your back. And when you do that, you are in this position, which puts pressure on the back of the disc, keeping the nuclear material forward. When you sit in slump, like this, for long periods of time, you're putting pressure on the front of the disc, causing a constant migration of what we call hysteresis and creep, where the nuclear material continues to push backwards, and that's when you start to develop disc problems. So have a great day, and I hope you keep your back healthy with core stabilization exercises and proper posture, and don't forget proper nutrition. Take care. This is Dr. Bates watching out for you.